Real dad's coming Thursday. She already told him. That was the first sentence I heard when I stepped into my own house. No, hi. No, you're back early. Just that. Her voice, my stepdaughter Ava's, came floating from the kitchen. She was on the phone. She didn't know I was home. She didn't know the business trip got canceled that morning, and I decided to surprise them with breakfast. Yeah, he's leaving today. His flight's later. We've got the house to ourselves. Mom's so ready. I stopped in the hallway. The bag of takeout coffee and bagels suddenly felt like bricks in my hand. No, he doesn't suspect anything. He's still obsessed with her. It's actually sad. Another voice, hers again. Cheerful. Confident. She was talking about me. The man who paid for her therapy when she refused to speak to her teachers. The one who helped her write college essays she never thanked me for. The one who picked up the pieces of their old life and built a new one around them. I took a step back and walked out the front door as quietly as I'd come in. I sat in the car for a long time. Didn't turn the key. Just let the engine stay quiet while my mind began sorting through the pieces. I wasn't heartbroken. I wasn't angry. Not yet. What I felt was the precise calm you get when everything suddenly makes sense. They'd made plans. Rachel and her daughter. To bring him back. The real dad. Tom. I didn't need to know the details. Not yet. What mattered was what came next. I didn't say a word when I came home that night. To them, I was still in another state. I let them believe that. Sent a polite text about boarding now and another about long meetings later in the evening. Rachel replied with a simple miss you and told me she and Ava were ordering takeout and watching movies. I watched the house from 2 streets over, through a long lens camera borrowed from a friend who owed me a favor. The lights stayed on late. A second car pulled up and left after midnight. I noted the make, the model, the plate. Just in case. The next morning, I made 3 phone calls. One to a lawyer, one to a private investigator, and one to the bank. I didn't yell, didn't accuse, just laid the groundwork. The investigator, retired military, now running a private firm, told me he'd start by watching the house discreetly. Photos. Logs. No contact. We don't push unless you want pressure, he said. I told him I wanted silence. For now. My lawyer asked if there'd been any talk of separation or infidelity before. No, I said, but there will be. At the bank, I opened a new account and started moving funds. Not enough to set off alarms, just enough to start creating distance. A second checking account. A third credit card. Temporary forwarding on all financial statements to a P.O. box they didn't know existed. That evening, I walked in the door with a smile on my face. Rachel greeted me with a kiss on the cheek and a bowl of pasta she'd reheated for me. She looked tired, but content. Ava was in her room, pretending to study. We watched a movie together on the couch, her head on my shoulder. I asked how their night had been. She told me it was quiet. She missed me. Said it was too quiet in the house without me. I told her I missed her too. And I meant it. In a way, I missed the version of her that existed before I stepped into that hallway earlier that morning. But that version was already gone. See, betrayal isn't always loud. Sometimes it shows up in the casual tone of a teenager who doesn't realize you're standing 3 feet away. Sometimes it sits across from you on the couch, holding your hand and thanking you for dinner, while secretly planning her exit. And sometimes it wears the face of someone you once believed would never lie to you. But I've learned something over the years. The ones who lie best are the ones who know you'll forgive them. That's what they were counting on. And that's exactly why they were going to fail. I met Rachel at a friend's engagement party. One of those late summer backyard things, folding chairs, string lights, a speaker playing soft country, and a few dozen people sipping wine out of plastic cups. I wasn't planning on staying long. She wasn't either. She stood near the back fence, glass in hand, hair tucked behind one ear, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. I offered her a drink. She gave a polite smile, asked if I had something less sweet. We ended up talking for almost 2 hours. She told me she was divorced. No theatrics, no drama, just the facts. Her daughter, Ava, was 13. They lived in a small townhouse. Rachel worked part-time in corporate HR, picking up contract gigs to stay afloat. Her ex, Tom, had disappeared from their lives after years of what she called instability. Drinking, money problems, a short temper. She didn't linger on the details. And I didn't press. There was something grounded about her. She wasn't chasing attention. Wasn't putting on a show. She looked tired in a way that made me want to ease her burden. And maybe I wanted someone to come home to. We started slow. She made it clear that Ava came first. Always would. If I wanted a relationship, I'd have to accept that. Not pretend. Not tolerate. Accept. And I did. I took it seriously. When Rachel couldn't make it to school meetings, I went. When Ava needed a ride from practice, I was there. Birthdays. School shopping. I was consistent. Reliable. At first, Ava was distant. Polite but uninterested. She never made it difficult, just never let me in. I told myself she'd come around. And eventually, she did. Or at least, she played the part. We started going to brunch on Saturdays. Movie nights. I helped her with algebra, and she taught me TikTok slang I pretended to care about. She even got me to dye part of my beard blue once for some challenge. For a moment, it felt like we were becoming something close to a family. I held on to that feeling like it was fact. A year and a half later, Rachel and I moved in together. She cried that first night, silent tears in a new kitchen as she unpacked a drawer of mismatched silverware. Said she hadn't felt settled in years. That I made her feel safe. 6 months after that, we got married. Quiet ceremony at the courthouse. 2 friends. 1 picture. We didn't need fanfare. I wasn't marrying for the pictures. I was marrying because I believed in what we were building. So I started building. I added Rachel to my health plan. Put Ava on my dental coverage. Opened a college savings account in Ava's name. I upgraded the house. New roof, new AC, better appliances. I made a home for them. For us. And I did it gladly. There were a few strange moments. Back then, I brushed them off. Like the time I overheard Ava tell a friend at school pickup that I was just her mom's husband, not her dad. I laughed it off, told myself it was teenager talk. Or when she refused to call me anything but Derek. Even after 3 years of being in the house. Never stepdad. Never even D. Rachel would always smooth things over. She's just protective, she'd say. She's been through more than you know. And I believed that. Because I wanted to. We weren't rich, but I made enough to give them comfort. Security. A future. Ava's braces. Paid in full. Rachel's new laptop for remote work. I ordered it the same day. She mentioned hers was slow. Even their weekend spa trip last year. I drove them to the hotel, carried the bags, and picked them up with fresh flowers in the passenger seat. I wasn't trying to earn love. I just thought that's what people do when they care. When they're committed. When they believe in family. I look back now and wonder how long it took them to start seeing me as an option instead of a constant. Maybe it started the first time Ava told Rachel, "He's not my real dad." Maybe it was when Tom messaged again. Or maybe Rachel never fully closed that door to begin with. I don't know. What I do know is this. I gave them everything I had. Time, trust, stability. And all the while, they were waiting for someone else to walk back in. Someone who'd once left them with nothing. And who they were still willing to welcome home like he'd done no wrong. The first sign was the silence. Not the comforting kind you get after a long day, curled up on the couch next to someone who knows you. This one was different. Heavy. Calculated. Measured. Rachel stopped making small talk in the mornings. At first, I figured it was work stress. She'd taken on a new client, a law firm that sent her endless spreadsheets and impossible deadlines. But it wasn't just fatigue. It was avoidance. Her eyes never quite met mine anymore. Our conversations were limited to logistics. Did you pay the gas bill? Ava's meeting with the school counselor after class today. I'll be late tomorrow, don't wait up. It was all function. No warmth. At night, she'd go to bed early. I'd find her already under the covers, phone screen glowing in the dark, always tilted just enough that I couldn't see it. One Friday, I came home with Thai takeout, her favorite. Ordered everything exactly the way she liked it. Extra chili, brown rice instead of white. She barely looked up from her laptop when I set the bag on the counter. You shouldn't have. I already ate with Ava. It wasn't rude. Just flat. Empty. I stood there for a second, not sure whether to sit down or just leave the food on the counter. Eventually, I took my plate to the living room and ate alone. 10 minutes later, I heard laughter from Ava's room. Sharp, breathy, too loud for whatever video she claimed she was watching. I walked past, heard Rachel's voice joining in, soft, almost girlish. That laugh she used to have only for me. Ava had changed too. Colder. Shorter sentences. She used to at least pretend to care when I asked about her day. Now I was lucky to get a shrug. School was fine. Nothing happened. Can I go now? Once, I found one of her notebooks on the kitchen table. I wasn't snooping. I was cleaning up. but I glanced at the open page and saw a sketch, 3 stick figures. A woman, a man, and a girl. The man was labeled Dad. It wasn't me. I noticed other things. A new necklace on Rachel's dresser. Silver. Expensive looking. No tag, no box. She said she bought it online, just something small. But I never saw a package arrive. A receipt on the counter for a restaurant we'd never been to. She said it was from a work lunch. I looked up the place later, romantic seafood spot with a 2-week waiting list. Not exactly casual office dining. Then there were the photos missing from the fridge. One's of us at the lake house last summer. Ava's graduation dinner. My brother's wedding. Quietly gone. Replaced with nothing. Just empty magnets. One evening, Rachel left her phone on the armrest while she went to the kitchen. A message popped up, only a few words before the screen dimmed. Thursday still good? No name. No contact photo. Just those words. I didn't touch the phone. When she came back, she grabbed it quickly and pressed it to her chest, then gave me a forced smile. Work again, she said. Always something. I nodded. Didn't ask. Didn't need to. There was a shift in Ava's tone, too. Not just in what she said, but how she said it. Once, when I reminded her to take out the trash, she muttered, just loud enough for me to hear. You're not even my real dad. Rachel didn't say a word. Didn't scold her. Didn't flinch. Just went back to chopping vegetables like nothing happened. I still remember the last normal dinner we had. Roast chicken, garlic bread, a glass of red. I'd spent the whole afternoon prepping. Rachel ate quietly. Ava pushed food around her plate. No one spoke. Halfway through, Ava's phone buzzed. She looked at it, then turned the screen toward Rachel. They exchanged a glance. A smile. Then they both got up at the same time. We'll be back, Rachel said. Just a quick run to the store. They didn't come back for 2 hours. When they returned, Rachel had a new bag from a boutique. Ava was wearing different shoes. Neither of them brought groceries. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, the sheets cold beside me. And for the first time, I stopped telling myself this was a rough patch. For the first time, I let the word betrayal echo in my head. Softly, slowly, but clearly. I didn't ask questions anymore. I'd stopped pretending to be the man who trusted the woman beside him. And I think Rachel could feel the shift. She didn't ask where I was going when I stayed late after work. Didn't follow up when I came home and said nothing. The house got quieter. Not empty, just loaded. Like everyone was waiting for something to snap. But I didn't snap. I started documenting. The first thing I did was call Nate Barnes. He was a former Marine turned private investigator. We met years ago through a business partner who needed help finding a missing tenant. Nate had a reputation, discreet, precise, no drama. He picked up on the second ring. Long time. What's going on? I need someone watched, I said. No confrontation. Just patterns. He didn't ask who. Just said, text me the details. Within 2 hours, he had a basic setup going. A parked car 2 blocks down. Small drone pass over every few days. Cameras weren't necessary yet too risky, he said. But tracking movements? Easy. I gave him 3 names. Rachel, Ava, and Tom. Tom? He asked. I thought you said. I know what I said. I cut in. Just look. The first week, not much happened. Rachel's schedule stayed consistent. Work 3 days a week. Home the rest. Grocery runs. Gym visits. A coffee shop she'd started frequenting, always around noon. Same table. Same order. Nate logged it all. Then, Thursday came. That was the day Ava had whispered about on the phone. Real dad's coming Thursday. And sure enough, late afternoon, a dark gray sedan pulled into the parking lot next to that same coffee shop. Tom. Nate sent the photo. Rachel was already sitting at the table when he arrived. She stood up. Hugged him. Not a friendly one, either. A long, slow, familiar kind of hug. They sat together for nearly an hour. Then they left. Separately. But Nate followed Tom. He didn't go far, just across town to a motel. Paid in cash. Cheap place. Not the kind you book for comfort. The next day, Rachel told me she'd been home all afternoon catching up on laundry. I didn't confront her. Didn't tell her I knew what dress she was wearing that day. Didn't mention the cafe. The hug. The lie. I just nodded and told her I'd be working through the weekend. Big project, I said. She smiled, relieved. Kissed me on the cheek. That was her mistake. Ava was acting stranger, too. She'd always been distant, but now she seemed almost smug. Like she was in on a joke I wasn't part of. I walked into the kitchen one evening and caught her slipping her phone quickly into her pocket. When I asked what she was up to, she shrugged. Just texting. Who? Friend. What kind of friend? She looked at me with that same half-smile Rachel had when she thought she was getting away with something. The kind you don't have to know about. I didn't respond. I just looked at her until she dropped her eyes. Saturday, I checked the guest bathroom. Something Nate had mentioned made me curious. He said Rachel had stopped at the pharmacy 2 towns over earlier in the week. There, beneath the sink, I found a box of protection. We hadn't used those in years. Sunday morning, Rachel asked if I wanted to go with her and Ava to brunch. I told her I was busy, that I had calls to make. She looked disappointed for a split second. Then it was gone. Okay, she said. Maybe next time. As they left, I watched from the upstairs window. She wore makeup she didn't use for me anymore. Ava was already texting. That afternoon, I met with Nate in person for the first time since this started. We sat at a quiet corner table in a diner off the highway. He slid a folder across the table. Thick. Neatly organized. It's not definitive, he said. But it's heading somewhere. Fast. I opened it. Dates. Times. Photos. License plates. Receipts. Rachel and Tom weren't just reconnecting. They were planning. And Ava? She wasn't in the dark. She was helping. That night, I stared at the ceiling and realized the truth. I wasn't part of this family anymore. I was the scaffolding. The support beams. Holding up a house they were already renovating without me. They just hadn't told me yet. But that was okay, because I had no plans to stay standing when the roof came down. They thought I was gone. Not just distracted or tired. Gone. Rachel told me she was taking Ava shopping that weekend. Said they'd be out most of the day. I told her I had paperwork to finish, that I'd be at the office. She smiled like someone who already knew the outcome. I didn't go to the office. I stayed close. Nate was already watching the house when they left. His report that evening was simple. They met him at the outlet mall. Parked far from the lot. Walked in separately. Left together. Him. Tom. My replacement. According to Nate, it wasn't their first meetup in public. But it was the first where Ava looked genuinely happy to see him. Laughing. Hugging him like she hadn't seen him in years. Which, as far as I knew, was true. Apparently, he'd changed. Apparently, they were rebuilding. With me still in place. Still footing the bill. Still pretending to belong. Sunday night, I found Rachel in the kitchen. She was humming. I hadn't heard her hum in months. She made pasta. The good kind of handmade. Sauce from scratch. Garlic bread warm from the oven. Ava was upstairs, playing music on her speaker, loud enough for the bass to shake the hallway. Celebrating something? I asked, watching Rachel move around the stove. She looked over her shoulder, smiled faintly. Just a good day. That was it. No guilt. No hesitation. Just comfort. Later, I passed by Ava's room. Her door was cracked open. Inside, she was curled up on the bed, phone in hand. I heard her whisper. He's gonna love it here. He'll see. It's not like before. Mom really wants this. Then a pause. Then laughter. No, Derek has no idea. He's so busy, it's like we don't even exist half the time. That was the moment. Not when I first heard Tom's name. Not when I saw Rachel lie about her location. Not when I found the protections in the bathroom. It was that sentence. He's so busy, it's like we don't even exist. They weren't just erasing me from their future. They were mocking me in the present. The next morning, Rachel asked if I'd be willing to travel for a few days. There's that industry event in Portland, she said. It might help you unwind. That's when I knew she wasn't hiding it anymore. She wanted me gone. So I agreed. Told her it was a good idea. Booked the ticket. Made it official. Left the confirmation email open on the desktop so she'd see it. She kissed me on the cheek when I left for the trip. But before I got on that plane, I had one last meeting with Nate. We met at a small cafe. Neutral ground. Mid-morning. He slid a folder across the table. He's coming to the house, Nate said. You were right. When? Rachel and Ava have Thursday wide open. No appointments. No school. No meetings. What's he driving? Same car. Sedan. Registered under a rental from another state. Probably trying to stay under the radar. I nodded. What's his history? I asked. Nate hesitated. Then he opened another folder. It's not great. Bankruptcy 5 years ago. Credit defaulted. Arrested once on suspicion of fraud, charges dropped. Civil judgment outstanding. And he owes the IRS more than most people earn in a year. My breath didn't catch. My pulse didn't rise. Just a calm confirmation of what I'd already suspected. Rachel and Ava weren't just blind. They were building their future on a collapsing roof. I boarded the plane, flew out like I said I would, checked into the hotel, and waited. Thursday morning, Nate sent a photo. Tom's car in my driveway. Front door open. 3 people inside. Laughing. Coffee cups on the porch. Ava filming something with her phone. An hour later, I made the final calls. The bank accounts. The college fund. The joint card. All gone. Access revoked. Passwords changed. Cash moved. The house. Title frozen. My attorney already had the paperwork. The timing? Perfect. Because 30 minutes after I pulled the plug, Rachel's phone buzzed with a notification from the bank. So did Ava's. The smiles didn't last long after that. According to Nate, Rachel ran back inside. Ava followed, shouting. They tried to log in. Tried to call the bank. Ava cried. Rachel screamed. And then came the knock on the door. Not a package. Not a neighbor. Nate, disguised as a courier, handed over a manila envelope. Inside, official petition for divorce. Request for exclusive property possession. Preliminary injunctions. Everything signed. Prepared. Filed. I wasn't in the house anymore. But that was still my front door. And now, they finally knew it. By the time the courier envelope was dropped at the door, Rachel and Ava were already spiraling. Nate told me that Rachel opened the door still on the phone with the bank, shouting something about an account being drained illegally. She yanked the envelope from his hands without a word. He didn't flinch, just nodded once and walked away. Back inside, Ava had collapsed into one of the kitchen chairs, crying, phone still in her hand. She was trying to log into her college fund account. It wouldn't load. She tried again, and again. Then she texted me. What did you do? I can't get into my account. I didn't reply. Then Rachel tried. The first message was short. Derek, call me. The second one, longer. Whatever this is, we can fix it. You're overreacting. This isn't you. And finally, the third. Please, let's talk before this gets out of control. They came quickly, one after another. When she realized I wasn't answering, she tried calling. 6 missed calls in 15 minutes. 2 voicemails. The first was calm, controlled. The second, not so much. Her voice cracked. She called me by all 3 of my names. Accused me of humiliating her. Said this wasn't fair. That I had no right to touch Ava's college fund. That I was hurting a child. Ava texted again. This time angry. You ruined everything. Why are you doing this? I needed that money. I stared at the screen, then turned it over and placed it face down on the hotel desk. Let them scream. I wasn't listening anymore. According to Nate, Tom left less than an hour after the delivery. No goodbye, no second thoughts. Just walked out with his hands in his pockets, like he knew exactly what was coming. He didn't answer Rachel's calls. Nate tailed him back to the motel on the edge of town. 2 hours later, the room was cleared out. He was gone. That's when Ava really lost it. She threw something. A glass, a remote, maybe both. Nate couldn't tell, but he saw her pacing, frantic. Rachel just stood there in the kitchen, staring at the wall, envelope still on the counter. She looked frozen. It wasn't the money that broke her. It was the sudden realization that the safety net was gone, and the man she thought would catch her had disappeared. I spent that evening reviewing the case file with my attorney over dinner. Everything was ready. Every document in order. Bank transfers logged. Property protected. Every item Rachel ever signed with me. Every lease, every account, every shared asset. Already traced and separated. She thought I was passive. She thought I'd be devastated. What she didn't realize was that grief is only power if you let it stay inside you. I'd let it out the moment I heard Ava call Tom real dad. From that point on, I had no emotion left to give them. Only strategy. Only closure. I let 2 days pass in complete silence. No calls. No texts. Nothing. Rachel tried again. This time softer. A message that began with, "We didn't mean for this to happen," and ended with, "Please, for Ava's sake." She even sent a photo. The 3 of us at a restaurant last year. The last time I remember all of us smiling without effort. She wrote, "We were good once. Remember?" I did remember. And that's why I didn't respond. Because I wasn't interested in getting back to what once was. I was focused on making sure it could never happen again. Friday evening, Nate sent me a photo. Rachel in the driveway, sitting on the front step, shoulders slumped, phone in her lap, no makeup, hair pulled back, nothing left to perform for. Ava wasn't in the frame. According to Nate, she'd locked herself in her room after calling a friend in tears. "I can't believe he did this," she'd said. "He was supposed to take care of us." No, I wasn't supposed to take care of them. I was supposed to love them. And they turned that into a contract I never signed. Now, the terms had changed. By Monday, Rachel had stopped pretending she was in control. Her messages became longer, more desperate. Not angry anymore, pleading. She asked me to call just for 5 minutes, said she needed context, wanted to clear the air before it got worse. I ignored them. Ava, on the other hand, took a different approach. Her first message wasn't words, it was a photo of a college acceptance email, one she hadn't shared with me before. I got in. "This is what you're destroying." A few hours later, another message. "Do you know what it's like to be the only girl in your class who's not going? Because of you." And then, the twist I'd been waiting for. "Maybe I should just tell people you promised to pay, that you pulled out at the last second. Let them think what they want." There it was. The play. Guilt. Reputation. Manipulation. She wanted me to break. But you can't shame a man who's already carried your lies for years and finally decided to drop them. That afternoon, my attorney filed the court date paperwork. We'd been waiting for the right window, just enough time to let the pressure build. Now, with Tom gone and Rachel spiraling, the timing was perfect. I protected everything: the house, my accounts, my business shares. The paper trail was clean and documented. She'd have no legal claim to the majority of it, and we both knew it. Rachel tried to push through the door one last time. If we show the court that we're trying, they might go easier on us. We can mediate. No need to make it ugly. Mediation. She still thought this was a negotiation. It wasn't. It was a verdict. I didn't need revenge. What I needed was clarity. For them. For the courts. For myself. Rachel had made her choice. Ava had helped her carry it out. Tom had taken what he wanted and vanished. There was no one left to blame. No narrative to spin. Just facts. And facts don't beg. That night, Rachel tried one more time. She came to the office. She must have gotten in through the building's front desk, used her old emergency contact info to bluff her way past. When my assistant called, I told her to let Rachel wait. Let her sit. 15 minutes passed before I stepped into the conference room. She stood as soon as I entered. Eyes tired. Skin pale. Her voice soft, like it had been dusted with regret. "We lost ourselves." That was the first thing she said. I didn't respond. I should have been honest. From the start, Tom came back, and I thought. I don't know what I thought. She reached into her purse, pulled out a small envelope. Pictures. From when it was still real. Just in case you wanted to remember that we weren't always like this. I didn't take them. She looked at me, eyes glassy. Ava's just a kid. I met her eyes then. She's old enough to know what she was doing. Rachel nodded. Slowly. The tears didn't come. Not yet. "Are you really going through with this?" "Yes." "Even after everything we had?" "Because of everything we had." She flinched. And that was the end. She didn't say goodbye. Just left. The envelope of pictures sat on the table for the rest of the day. I didn't open it. When I left the office, I threw it in the trash. That night, Ava messaged me one last time. "I hope you're proud. I hope you feel strong now that you've ruined 2 lives." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed, slowly. "Now you'll learn where money comes from. Try earning it. Or ask your real dad." Then I blocked her number. I arrived early. Not because I was eager. Just prepared. The courthouse was colder than I remembered. Neutral walls, faint echo in the hallway. My attorney, Leslie, met me at the entrance. No small talk. She handed me the folder and walked beside me like she'd done this a dozen times. She had. Rachel was already inside when we entered. Sitting on the left, near the window. She turned the moment I stepped through the door. I saw it in her face, relief. Like some small part of her had convinced herself I might not show up, or that if I did, I'd come softened. I didn't. I didn't look at her. Just took my seat and opened the folder. Leslie placed a hand on my arm, light but solid. "Today," she said quietly, "you take it all back." Rachel's attorney leaned toward her, whispering something. She nodded, forced a smile. I didn't care to interpret it. The judge walked in. We all stood. Routine. Formalities. Then it began. Leslie started with facts. No drama. No emotion. Dates, bank statements, transfers, photos, times. She walked through it like an accountant closing out a quarter. Rachel sat still, only breaking once, to glance over at me, as if hoping for a flicker of doubt. I gave her none. Her lawyer tried to play the reconciliation card. There was confusion, he said. Emotion. Pressure. Misunderstandings. Leslie let him speak. Then she calmly placed a folder on the table. Inside, Nate's full report. Surveillance photos. Confirmed visits. Hotel records. Timestamped texts and emails Rachel thought she'd deleted. When the judge asked Rachel if she disputed the evidence, she paused too long. Then she said, I didn't plan it this way. It just happened. Leslie didn't respond. The judge didn't react. And me? I just watched her say it. Say it like she tripped and fell into betrayal. When asked about the college fund, I provided transaction logs. Every cent moved legally, within my rights. Ava was not adopted, not entitled. Contributions were voluntary. Revocable. Rachel looked stunned. Ava, sitting behind her, shook her head and whispered something angry. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The judge asked if I had anything I wanted to say directly. I shook my head. Leslie stood in my place. My client has nothing to add. Everything's already been said. And done. The ruling came swift. The house remained mine. No alimony. All shared accounts dissolved. No further financial obligation toward Ava. Rachel tried to interrupt, but her lawyer stopped her. Ava whispered, he's ruining everything, loud enough for half the courtroom to hear. I didn't flinch. The judge noted the behavior, reminded them this was a legal proceeding, not a family debate. When the session adjourned, Rachel stood up slowly. She looked at me like she still didn't understand how this version of me existed, this calm, cold version that refused to break. She stepped closer as I was gathering my things. Please, she said, voice trembling. You loved us. I paused, met her eyes. I loved a future you burned to the ground. Then I walked out. A month passed. I never went back to the house. Not once. After the court ruling, Rachel had 30 days to vacate. My lawyer handled everything. The locks were changed. Utilities reset. Her name removed from every record. Nate confirmed they moved into a small rental on the far side of town. Cheaper area, smaller space, no garden, no porch. Rachel stopped driving her SUV 2 weeks later. Repossessed. Ava's private school enrollment was terminated. No tuition, no classes, no appeal. I didn't watch it happen. I didn't ask for updates. But pieces still made their way to me. Tom never came back. He vanished after the divorce was filed. Rachel called him, messaged him, even drove to the address he once gave her. Nothing. Either he changed his number or he was never planning to stay. Probably both. Rachel applied for 3 part-time jobs. Ava started working evenings at a diner near the freeway. I didn't look her up. Nate did. It was his job to know how far they'd fall once the ground gave way. One afternoon, I got a text from an unknown number. A short one. You really won. Is that what you wanted? It was Ava. I blocked the number. The next day, she found me in the parking lot outside my office. I don't know how long she waited. She looked smaller than I remembered. The bright, dismissive teenager now wore an apron, grease-stained, hair tied up. She stood in front of me and said nothing for a few seconds. Then, I'm not going to college. You took that. I didn't say a word. You think you taught me something? You think this will make me stronger? You just destroyed everything. I looked her in the eye. No, I didn't destroy it. I stopped paying for it. Now you get to find out how it's built. She blinked, like the words didn't hit all at once. Then she tried one more time. You said you cared about me. I nodded. I did. That's why this hurt. But caring isn't the same as being blind. She wanted a fight. I gave her a mirror. And then I walked away. Rachel never contacted me again. She knew there was nothing left to say. The last thread was Ava, and now that was cut too. I moved forward. Quietly. Not with revenge. Not with satisfaction. Just peace. Because some endings don't need closure. They just need to be real. Permanent. I kept one photo from the years we were together. The 3 of us on the lake dock. The sunlight was perfect. The smiles were real. That was the version of them I chose to remember. Not the lies. Not the betrayal. Just the moment, before it all began to rot. And then, even that photo went into the drawer. I didn't throw it out. I just stopped needing it.